All right, everybody, you've been waiting for this forever. It's taken us 9 months to put this show together, but yet here we are. Two old farts and the little colored fella from New Jersey. We're going to change the name of the show, but for right now, that's what we'll start with. Rico Jambone, the Squire, lawyer extraordinaire here in Greenville. But I'm not the star of the show here. The two most important guys are sitting to my right. We'll start with old Detroit, old man Fart Kurt, and to his right, out of the low country in South Carolina, old man Greg. Gentlemen, introduce yourselves.
Go ahead, Greg.
Greg Cassidy here, Clemson Tiger alumni fan, and
That's right, class of 80.
Rico Jambo fan, and we have been sitting at the corner of this bar for probably 4 years, almost every day, and we certainly have a good time. We want to share some of the stupid things we talk about.
Which reminds me, by the way, Ink and Ivy, downtown Greenville, got to shout them out. Thank you for letting us be here, Chris, Christy, Gabby, much appreciated. Now, we got to tell them what the show is about, because no one wants to hear another bullshit podcast, right? So let's get into what the logistics and the schematics of these antics will be throughout the show. Kurt, let me hear it.
Well, first I'll introduce myself.
I forgot about that part.
Kurt Marks from middle part of Michigan. I'll do this for the camera right here. Other way. Right there. Been here 15 years. Avid Detroit Tiger, all Detroit sports fan, and let's go.
All right. You're the guy that walks around town at about 7 p.m. every night, sort of 2 steps to the left, 2 steps to the right.
Supposedly. I don't see it that way.
He doesn't remember.
You wake up with receipts in your pocket every morning, and that's all
let's just say I walk up here, it takes a little over half a mile, and it's usually a mile and a half walk home.
Hey, let's talk about the drunk grocery shopping. With the grocery cart in your house in the morning.
Well, when you live so close to the Publix, you just take the grocery you don't take bags. You put the groceries in the cart, and you take the cart up the elevator to the refrigerator. And then you take the trash out the next day on the way up to happy hour, and you take the cart back.
So, following up on that, the cart stays in your apartment all night? Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Every morning it comes out.
Problem with that?
Well, it's larceny if you really want to get the criminal aspect of it, but
it's pretty handy.
All right. Now, forget all the small talk. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Greg here drives a Ford Explorer that's probably as old as he is.
Yes.
I think you use your feet to get the thing moving forward and backward.
It's held together by duct tape.
Okay.
Duct tape on the windows, duct tape all around.
I'm afraid when I ride shotgun in that thing, I'm going to fall through the floor.
But it makes it here every day.
Absolutely.
All right.
1 mile a day.
All right. So for those of you listening, all three of you, this show is about nothing, really, right? Is that what we decided on? Yep. Just sort of go about it haphazardly. Whatever happens, happens.
Absolutely.
All right. I can deal with that. I'm more interested in the talking points that every single day at that bar downstairs we come across. So today you guys decided you want to talk election 24, if I'm correct. Part of the conversation. Yeah? All right. For those of you listening, these two guys are pretty staunch conservatives. I enjoy conversations with them, but I'll start with the hard question. Trump or Biden 24?
Trump.
Okay, tell me why.
Look at the economy.
There's my mic.
Look at the economy, look at the border. Enough said.
Yeah. Greg?
Same.
Two biggest hot button topics for you guys?
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you not feel like the Palestinian-Israeli crisis factors into this, which obviously a large contingent of this country have become more and more pro-Palestine, which are a lot of younger folks who are woke, as they say, which I'm not a big fan of.
There's a lot of misguided folks in this country, but yeah, that's 1A, 1B, 1C. I mean, they're all right there.
I think there's a class of people that are going to protest no matter what. They protest the sky's not blue. They protest the ground's not dirt. I mean, they just want to protest. I don't know if they don't have jobs. They just stand in the road with signs. You know? They don't know what they're talking about.
Do you find yourselves more and more, let's just call it how it is, I call you the two old farts. Do you find yourselves more angry these days because of things like that, or is it just the general direction of the country that sort of steers your thinking?
Well, when you get old like me, you try to not let the old man come inside your head, but naturally the old
Pause. Come inside your head, I mean...
Well, Jesus. You don't want to be the old man. but I do think that contributes. The older I get, the more conservative I get.
I understand that. What about you?
What's the question? Sorry.
What aside from all the nonsense with the protesting and all that stuff, what else factors into your...
Well, I take an optimistic approach. I think if Trump gets reelected, he's going to turn this thing around in 4 months, if he can. I don't know that you can do that with the border, but the whole Palestinian thing, we have to shove our respect back to Israel. They've been our staunchest supporter in the Middle East for 60 years.
All right, let me ask you this. What if he goes through this trial, which is now underway, in fact, they're impaneling or supposedly impanel more jurors tomorrow? What happens if he gets convicted? Does that change your way of thinking at all? It does not.
Zero.
And I think that judge in New York right now is ridiculous.
You sound just like Trump.
He's convicted for a crime where there are no victims. There's not one.
Well, this is the hush money thing. This is the Stormy Daniels and...
But he's right. Who's the victim in that?
Yeah.
Exactly. So what if he paid him off? And if he did, there's a signed document and that they accepted payment and then it's over. This judge and this DA are ridiculous.
Which means, talking about no victims, his money mostly comes from rich donors, I'd imagine, right? So he robbed a bunch of rich people. Anybody care about that?
It was $100,000. You think $100,000?
That's very expensive vagina, guys. It's quite expensive.
Well,
not my cup of tea.
There's a debate whether he really did or not.
Yeah.
He's got a signed document from Stormy that said he didn't. So
I heard that was coerced.
The biggest problem I have with it, he won't let him out. This judge in New York won't let him go to the Supreme Court for that trial, so he can be present on his own defense, and he won't let him go see his son graduation. Come on now.
He's mandated
Let's get
attendance
real.
every day. He will not let Trump miss court.
Does it bother you, particularly, that your old hometown of Detroit, a place that Greg and I have come to hate thanks to you, is very pro-liberal and pro-Biden? Is that factor?
I'm not sure you can say that in certain areas of Metro Detroit. Downtown Detroit, where it's still rough and it's still dilapidated, yes, certainly. But it's going to take... It's never going to get better. It never has been better, so why should I forecast that it's going to be better in 10, 20, 30 years? Because it's just not.
And where you grew up is pretty progressive too now, right? Low country out by Charleston?
Yeah. But I was raised in the country, cropping tobacco, where everybody chewed tobacco and drank Budweiser. So
But you've also told me a handful of times you played basketball where you were the minority on the team. Only minority.
Yeah. But I didn't think of it. It didn't bother me. Because I didn't know any different.
There's a story there that we'll write in the future. He tells a good story about his football career in high school. It's actually funny in hell.
Why don't we just tell it? Fuck it.
Go ahead, tell it.
So we were on the road in high school. We were wearing white jerseys, and I was captain, and the other team had, I don't remember the color, but we had a penalty on the play. And
Mind you, he was the only white guy on his team.
Yeah. So we had a black player who was the captain of the defense. And the referee went up to Carl Page, it was his name, and said, "Hey, I need to see the white captain." He goes, "Greg, you need to see the white captain."
So you became de facto captain on that one play.
Well, because I had a white jersey on, he thought, because I was white, he thought that's who he was talking to.
The Old South.
The Old South.
Try that in Greenville these days. I mean, the high schools in Greenville look a lot different than they did back then.
Yeah.
All right, now, so, assuming all things politically go you guys' way, what's your first expectation of Trump when he takes office?
Close the border.
Fair enough. Greg?
Say, undo everything Biden did.
Now, you guys know that part of the influx of migrants, if you will, that they're not all from the same place. Which concerns you most?
I don't, because here's the thing. My wife came from Sweden, and she did it the right way. She got a green card. We spent probably a couple $1,000 getting her legal, actually hired an attorney. She studied for a year to answer 10 questions verbally, where she had to get 7 right. I just don't understand. I see what my wife went through. I went to, when she got established as a U.S. citizen here at the airport, I saw 28 people from 28 different countries all crying because they just got made United States citizens. I don't think it's fair to the people that have sacrificed and made that sacrifice to become a legal citizen to have people just walk across, and it diminishes what my wife has done and a lot of other people have done legally.
So for you, it sounds like it doesn't matter where in the world they come from.
Just go do
it
right.
properly.
Yeah. So,
I assume the sentiments are the same for you.
My biggest fear is from the migrants or illegal aliens, whatever we want to call them, from the Middle East and China.
All right, now I have to ask, you being from Michigan, Dearborn comes to mind, where there is a considerable number of...
It's the biggest Arab community in the United States.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming immigration's a big point of issue there as well.
Well, there's a female congressman up there that is radical.
When you say radical...
Talib, she's radical.
the squad.
Yeah, she's part of the
Oh,
squad.
that's right, with the AOCs of the world. Yeah.
But I gotta be honest. Dearborn is where Ford Motor Company started, and there's some beautiful land, beautiful homes. It's a beautiful area, and Ford recruited that genre to come work at the plants. Clearly, back when they were starting to pay $5 a day, which was unheard of back in the early 1900s. But now the workers in the Ford plants are probably great. I've met a few of them, but they're probably great. But it's the congresswoman that's being a radical and firing up the crowds, and I used to say it was the safest community from the Arab attack in the world because it was the #1 Arab community in North America. Now I'm not so sure.
They had protests last week where they yelled, "Death to America! Death to America!"
That's particularly scary considering.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on your home turf, but I feel like we've dealt with this since pre-9/11.
Probably.
It's been 93. All right, segment 2. Two old farts, and the colored guy from New Jersey, Rico Jambone Esquire. It's a bit of a name that I gave myself. Old man, old fart Kurt, old man, old fart Greg, sitting next to me. Let's roll into another thing that we all have in common as we give our audience an idea of what brought us all together, sports. I'm going to let Kurt go first because it's going to take him an hour to get through old Detroit. But you love it, Detroit. You talk to us all the time about how you went to games as a kid, how you've enjoyed, and I mean, let's face it, it's a historical city for sports. I mean, between baseball, with Al Kaline and those guys, and football, and Barry Sanders, what have you. Detroit, I used to be a Laker fan, but what was that like for you growing up?
Well, as an early child, my dad worked for General Motors, and we had tickets for just about every event that we wanted to go to. So I grew up in Old Tiger Stadium. I actually watched a Lions game in Tiger Stadium in the late 70s before they moved. Excuse me. Followed the Pistons. It's just a great. I kind of compare it to Boston and New York. It's a sports franchise city, and when you play there as an athlete, pro athletes stay in Detroit because it's such a great community. Detroit downtown was a hazard growing up.
Awesome. It still is.
It still is in certain where people live, yes, certainly. But there are neighborhoods and where the sports cities are, it's just fantastic what they've done to it. But yes, I'm a diehard Detroit sports fan. Neck toes in Michigan, Michigan State, Western Michigan, Central Michigan, you name it. I'm a Michigan guy.
All right, Greg, Low Country, South Carolina for you. Obviously, you grew up a Braves fan, but you played football at Clemson University, graduated class of 80, if I'm correct. Tell us about that.
I did. I'm just proud to be a Clemson graduate, Rico. Without Clemson, I would probably be an old farmer making no money. Clemson was kind enough to let me go to school there, pay for most of my education. I was the first person in my family to graduate college. Both of my parents were hardworking, but not college educated, and I'm just proud to be a graduate, to be honest with you. I love that school for what it did for me. It did a lot more for me than I did for it.
Sure, and we bust your chops about this all the time, but you graduated right before they won the national championship the following year.
I graduated in 1980, and we won the national championship in 1981, which is just kind of part of my life.
Par for the course.
Par for the course.
Where were you when they won the title?
I was at the game.
You were at the game?
I took a Greyhound bus from Greenville to Miami because I was broke as shit. By myself, 22-hour ride there, 22-hour ride back.
What was it like getting, I mean, obviously it's your home state school, but
Yep.
did South Carolina recruit you?
I was recruited by South Carolina, Georgia, and Clemson.
And you picked Clemson, why?
Just family feel. And it was, South Carolina was only an hour away from my house, and I didn't want my mom and dad popping in.
Unannounced?
Unannounced.
Catch you in bed?
Yeah, so I went to Clemson's about 3 hours away. I really liked Georgia, but once I walked on Clemson campus, I knew I was done. There was nowhere else to go from me.
Tell them how your dad dropped you off.
So when I went to school, my parents were not wealthy, not poor, but not wealthy, and he rented a van by the hour. And when we got to my dorm, he dropped me off on the corner. We emptied the van on the corner, and he goes, "All right, bud, have a good time. We'll see you at Thanksgiving. Hope you can find a way home, but I got to get back because I'm paying for this van by the hour." Okay, all right. So I grabbed all my shit, took it up to my dorm room by myself.
Was that 4 hours from hometown to Clemson? Mm-hmm. For those of you who don't know, Clemson's about 30 miles from here. Short ride. Campus is, I call it Greenville, Clemson North, because of all the fandom that you have moving here out of Clemson. And Greenville's become such a big transient city, if you will, for Clemson grads.
Absolutely.
So natural that you landed here. All right, old Red Wing over here.
We did not make the playoffs. I'm ashamed to say.
Neither of the Pistons.
The Pistons suck.
Lions, this past season, you had a shot.
We had a
How did
run.
you blow that lead against San Fran? Let me hear
At
that.
halftime?
Yeah. What was it, 27
Our cornerback had the ball hit off his helmet and he couldn't catch it, and we lost the game.
In Detroit fashion, effectively.
Yeah, spectacular Detroit letting them, like usual.
You're used to that at this point.
Same old Lions, SOL. That's what we are. I don't believe that anymore. I think we have the right coach, the coaching staff. I think we're on our way.
Now, were you an athlete, and if so, what were your sports of choice growing up?
I sucked as an athlete. I'll be honest. But I did play varsity baseball 1 year. I take that back. I played 9th grade at baseball 1 year. Never got a hit. Quit. I couldn't hit a baseball to save my life. My preferred sport was football. I did go out for basketball, and I didn't like that. I went to work instead. So.
Well, back then, that's what everybody did growing up in your town, right? It was
My highlight of my athletic career is I had an interception. The ball was tipped by my best friend Phil, who stood up in my wedding. I had an interception against Mount Morris, and it was insignificant. But it was in the snow, I'll tell you that. Other than that, I suck as an athlete. But I am a true sports fan.
Listen, 90% of a stadium never played a sport in their life. It's all, they just show up for the sake of showing up and spending that money. All right, last thing before we close the pilot, if you will. We have been coming to this place for roughly 5 years. It's a place we hang out, spend a lot of time here. I want you guys to tell the story about how we found out exactly what we spend here a year and what that amount is. Fuck it, I mean, it's all part of the...
I'll let Kurt take the lead on that because he has the raw evidence.
Well, no, let's go back to an event that you and I were involved in.
I remember this. Yeah. I do remember this.
We walked up...
Don't put it lightly.
We walked up here one summer day, early summer day.
Yeah.
About 2 years after it opened, and if you follow my lead, downstairs there's a big window that opens up. Well, one of the managers wouldn't open it for us, and the next day we were at the pool of my apartment, and one of the bartenders were there, and he and I got frankly pissed off because they wouldn't open it for us, and it was a beautiful day, beautiful 80-degree day, no humidity. So this bartender told us the manager that was currently running the place the previous night made the statement that we needed to know who ran the place. It wasn't us, it was her. So we boycotted the place for 1.5 months. And then the regional manager came we walked back out here one day, 2 months later, whatever, and the regional manager happened to walk by. He was good friends with us, and we said, we'd like to come back in. And he said, we'd like to have you come back in, but we said, we feel discriminated against by your manager. What's going on? She says, well, we've moved her in another direction. She's still here, by the way, and she does a great job. And I said, you know how much money we spend here? We probably spend $2,000 to $3,000 a year here. He said, would you believe $12,000, $13,000 a year? And he and I looked at each other and shook our heads like, oh, Jesus.
Oh, geez.
Shout out to Tito's.
Shout out to Tito's.
Our go-to.
But one last thing. Ink and Ivy has been very good to us.
Oh, yeah.
All of us, all three of us.
100%.
And they're tremendous.
I would like to say one more thing before we close. It's called Christmas Morning at Kurt's Morning. Every time he opens his door in the morning, there's an Amazon package that he never knew he bought from this farm.
And that'll be a show in and of itself. But
I thought you were going to bless me or thank me for all the Christmas dinners I've cooked and shit.
The best cooking.
Nice. That's what I've been. And I will say this in closing. I don't have the luxury of family per se when it comes to these holidays. I've spent probably 4 or 5 of the last 6 Thanksgivings at your place. Same with Christmas. It's a good friendship developed there. All right, now pilots out of the way. Thank Christy for her production savvy back there. Greg and Kurt, the old fox. Next week we'll delve a little bit more into why we're really here, which is to piss people off. I mean, that's the whole point of this show as far as I'm concerned. Anything to say as we close pseudo episode 1?
Wait till the next one.
Fair enough.
Let's relook at this and see if it's worth looking at.
I don't know. All right, everybody. Till next week.
Good night.
Good night.